Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Toki Tori. I am MegaFreak400, and we are going to be continuing Creepy Castle and then finishing it up, because there's only like two levels left, and then we'll be starting Slimy Sewers, which will be a fun level, and gross as well. So, yeah, the Creepy Castle is the level that like basically sets up a lot of thinking puzzles. Slimy Sewers like adds to it like a ton. There's a ton of thinking, like this one right here. This one's a thinking puzzle right here. Because what you need to do is you need to use the telewarper or telewarp to if I'm going to do that, warp past. Oh, come on. Yeah, past the bricks, so I can pick them up and drop them, and then continue this way to set them in place to use them. So yeah, stuff like that. That's kind of like those kind of puzzles. I like them because they're creative. They're not like your average puzzle or average maze or something. It's like we're gonna make you think a little bit about how to do this. And Slimy Suit has a ton of those because of the items you get. So yeah, it's been a decent week for me so far. Well, I can't really say that because I got back to college. It was good. But like I was lost of sleep the entire week, and then it accumulated with me pulling an all-nighter again. That was like the longest ever. It was enjoyable, but it was really long overall. So actually, I'll be talking about that real quick. This puzzle also gave me a little bit of trouble too, but just because I needed to remember what I had to do. It's not too bad, but it's kind of tricky. You have to think, like, you had to have a bridge there because you'll need it to get back up, and that's something that you need to make sure you remember. Also with ladders, real quick, you can move to the left when you're, like, right here. You can move to the left off the ladder. So keep that in mind. So anyway, I pulled on later, but I did, had film class that, I'm doing introduction to film, so it's basically watching movies, and, we were watching Citizen Kane, which is widely considered like one of the best best movies of all time. It's one like a lot of people consider a really great movie. Here you have this transferring scene to the next level, which is Slimy Sewers. Okay, so yeah, so we watched that movie. Now, technically, I was kind of asleep through a lot of it, so I can't really even base my opinion on it at all. So I'm not really even going to talk about the movie itself, about what I thought about, because I didn't really watch much of it, because, again, I pulled an all-nighter. It's hard to stay awake during anything when you're that tired and the lights are off. And real quick, though, we have the Slug Sucker. It's the enemy item of this game. Each level, each enemy item of this world, each world has a different enemy item. The first one again being the Freeze-O-Matic, this one being the Slug Sucker, and last one being the Ghost Trap. The Slug Sucker, you can suck up the slugs, but you'll use up the item if you suck them up, so you can just change the direction sometimes, which will come in handy in some levels. So anyway, we were watching Citizen Kane, and it got me thinking, should films be considered and yeah, here's where the Slug Sucker comes in really handy, because otherwise you'd be screwed here. Because you need to suck up that slug, or move it over here, or else you'll run into it at one point. So, what should films be considered in the context that should films be considered in the context that they that the context, the age, the year, all that stuff in which they were developed, and the impact they had, or should they just be based basing your opinion on a game or movie be based solely on the game and movie itself and the content in the game and movie? Now, obviously, this is going to be subjective to certain movies and games, and it's a thing that's that has balance. Like, I believe you need a little bit of both. But I guess my thing about this is Instant Rock. I love how it has TM, like it's a copyrighted thing. The Instant Rock. This is basically like the platform or the bridge builder, but instead of building bridges, you throw down blocks and you can use them to continue onward. It's a really useful item, and this could be the main thing of a lot of the puzzles in this level. But yeah, anyway, with the Yeah, obviously there's going to be a lot of opinions, or obviously there's going to be a lot of it has to do with balance between the two, and obviously I don't think you should get rid of the context completely on everything. But I guess my question is, what do you see as being more important of a factor, or not really important of a factor, but what do you see as? I'm just wondering, like, do you consider it more important than some people were like? I'm wondering how many people consider it like a really important factor of a lot of games, or if it's just in some certain situations it should be considered important. Because I guess the best example for games would be Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. They're games that personally, and this is it's controversial with a lot of people, but personally I don't find them that. They're not that they're bad games. I just don't find them, that good. Like, I'd say they're both my least favorite of both series. Now, again, I'll get a lot of people saying, you're crazy, go to the insane asylum. That's not correct. But that's just how I personally feel. It's not like I haven't tried playing them and tried enjoying them. It's not like, Ocarina of Time is really a good game. It's just not my favorite and not really one I personally enjoy all that much. And one of the arguments I've heard for it is, Ocarina of Time was, so groundbreaking. It was so different for its time. You have to consider it in that time period. And like Citizen Kane, in the time it came out, it really did revolutionize a lot of the way the film industry works today. Like, it set a lot of groundbreaking standards that we still use today. So I can understand in that sense why it's considered important. I guess the thing is, should it be considered a greatest film? Is it the most influential film? Yeah, but shouldn't it be considered the greatest film because of that? And what exactly does great mean in the situation? Do you mean great as in the film is good because of what it did for society, or is the film good because of, the content? It all goes into how people perceive things. Perception is a big thing. And I guess the more this is just showing off my perception. I'm wondering what you guys think as well, because there's really absolutely no right or wrong answer to this at all. Like, it's not even close to being any right or wrong thing about this. I mean, a lot of opinion things don't, but I mean, like, this is almost purely it's purely to subjectiveness, purely to certain situations, and it's purely to opinion too. But I mean, Citizen Kane, was it a bad movie? No, but I guess the thing is it worth being elevated to being a great movie solely because of what it did, or does the content need to be up to par? And if you watched it in the year it came, or in the time it came out, would you have, because of our perception is differently than it was, back then. The way we think is different than people in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's different than it was at those time periods. Today how you think, so how the majority of the culture thinks. So it gets down to does that make a difference? Does that mean that the reason we should think of it in a certain way is because we don't think the same? We have to think those, at least we have to consider it in the culture it did, because we can't think about it. We can't think about it in the way their culture did. So we have to consider that because it did make an impact on how the movie was perceived. That's a possible point. The other thing is, like with biographical movies, sometimes the culture that the movie was, or like more like historical movies, sometimes even fictional movies, the culture has a big impact on how the movie. Like I'm doing an art history report about an artist, and he lives in South Africa, and South Africa has a big impact in almost all of his art. So does that mean you shouldn't consider it? If it has such an impact, you have to consider these things when you're debating these sort of issues and stuff. Because there's thinking, like, the thing is, you have to consider every different perspective. I mean, you get into like or gaming, you get should you consider certain things, like saying, oh, they didn't have the technological advances. I don't think that technology should make a difference in terms of whether. That's the thing. I don't think technology should be a difference, and we should consider it in this culture. I can consider other things, but like in terms of technology, if a film at the time didn't have the ability to do color, then don't really judge on that. I would argue to a point sound, because it's really hard to watch a sound. It's hard to watch silent movies, but I can't really say that it's the movie's fault. I'm just saying it's really hard to watch silent movies. But yeah, you have to consider that. You have to consider, I mean, I personally don't think that Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time should be considered, good games because of what they did for the gaming industry. Do I think that they were influential and were they important games? Sure. Do I think that they are good solely because of what the impact they have? I don't think that really has much of an impact on my opinion of the game. I don't think the fact that they were the first 3D, or Super Mario 64 was like one of the first 3D platformers, I don't think that really makes much of a difference in my opinion. I don't know. I've basically been rambling on, not really making much of a point here, but I'm just kind of, it's more of just my musings. That's how I do a lot of my thinking. I just kind of think it over. It's like, well, does this work this way? You have to consider every perspective, because that's how life works. So we've been doing Slimy Sewers, and that's about all the time I have. So this has been Maker 400 reminding you, sewers.